Hi, my name is Wyatt. I am the technical founder of a project called NovaNet. We use folding quite a lot, folding scheme. So I'm going to explain kind of what those are and the coolest and most up-to-date state-of-the-art innovations in folding that enable client-side proving. They speed up zero-knowledge machine learning. They shrink ZK VM, and they actually, most recently, allow you to use small fields, kind of like magic. And after that, power prover networks can leave you in wonder. We have a ZK VM, we call it the ZK engine. There's so many ZK VMs out there, we want to differentiate with a different name. It's based purely on folding scheme. We did Supernova first, we did Nebula, which is a more recent folding scheme. It's super performant, and the cool thing is it actually supports privacy. So most of the ZK VM that exists today have very big provers that you need special hardware to run. This can work in your browser or on your phone potentially, which is very cool for a bunch of different types of use cases like local verifiable compute and privacy. Behind that, we have a prover network that orchestrates these type of proofs. So what is the folding scheme? It starts actually with proof recursion. You take witness in its pairs, two of them, and actually you can verify them as one. So you're taking two things and making them smaller in one. And before this, what would happen is actually kind of like eating soup with a fork. There's a very inefficient way before folding came out, where basically you take a snark and have a verifier circuit wrapped in the snark. And you do this heavy mathematics step by step by step. And this is kind of the pre-Nova and pre-folding type of proof of recursion. But then the KST 22 paper came out and they said, hey, stop being cavemen. Use a spoon to eat the soup. And that's where we got the better mathematics to do these type of folding schemes. So you can take these two instances and basically just check one at each step. And this is very important for something called incremental verifiable computation, where you can basically piecemeal a proof rather than having to have everything in your head at once with a monolithic type prover. The bad or downside about this is the proof size is relatively large, so you do eventually need to wrap it in a snark to get it onto a blockchain. Folding in 60 seconds, it's actually pretty funny because the papers are all named after like galaxies and stuff. So you have Nova, Supernova, Hypernova, Protostar, Protogalaxy, Neutron Nova. There's a bunch of papers that just go on. I reserved one called Gamma Ray Burst. If I ever make a paper, that's what it's going to be entitled. But basically what started very on was relaxed R1CS. And from there, we wanted to expand out of that. People wanted Plonk. They got Sangria instead. But really, we got Air and CCS from the first Nova paper. From there, we actually moved from one uniform circuit to non-uniformity, which is cool for a bunch of different types of use cases. We actually went from the smallest, lowest recursion overhead, which was 10K constraints, and you actually get, I think that's still probably relatively close to the lowest. But actually the prover was 2 MSM in the first Nova paper, now it's down to 1 with the Hypernova paper. So really there's just been a huge flurry of work from this folding. And with that we get a lot of really cool state-of-the-art zero-knowledge proof technology. So why fold? Not being mean to any of these companies, they all mostly started for scaling Ethereum. They're looking to basically make a very fast monolithic prover run to do the scaling problem. We have a very different problem set where we want local verifiable compute for DPIN and those type of devices, or even for browser type of browsers. So with this, we needed a small space prover, and with folding scheme, this is the best way to do it. Interesting fact is Jolt can actually also use folding as well to get smaller prover, but right now it's around 80 gigabytes to run it. And that link is just to show how I got this 128 gigabytes, it's not just me. You can try to run these provers by yourself as well, and they're pretty heavy. Another cool thing about folding is you actually add privacy just by folding in itself. There's an update in the newest Hypernova paper where you can actually just use folding one time on any proving scheme, and you can potentially add folding with it. So you could actually take the Jolt verifier, turn it to a circuit, fold it once, and then therefore become privacy preserving. So it's a very easy and cool way, if anyone wants to look at the paper, to add privacy to things that weren't private before. You guys might have heard of Nexus. They're very into parallelization and continuations, folding with multi-folding. It's very good for that. So you can take a big problem, split it across 1,000 machines, and say, hey, run this as fast as possible with 1,000 machines, and you can efficiently aggregate these together. And with that, eventually post to an L1. So it's very good for that. IBC, if you have monolithic provers, if the prover dies midway, you have to start from the beginning again. But with IBC, you can have a prover network where basically you have stop, go, stop, go, stop, go. If one's flaky and disappears, someone else can continue that work. And this is important if you want to have like 1,000 random people help prove. And IBC is what our prover network is based off of. This allows specialists to come in. So potentially Jolt can join the network and do floating point numbers or some specialist task. They can earn a premium, kind of like an Uber Black, for doing the specialist tasks. So things like ZKML that might be very specialized circuits can actually join the NovaNet prover network, earn a premium. All the users get the benefits of using the specialized schemes. So what is the state of the art? And a lot of the stuff I hope is new to most of you, because it's all relatively newer papers. For ZKML, most people are using TEs currently, even though at the end they take TEs and they wrap it with something called ZK decap. So they use ZK to get the stuff on chain because the TE proofs are too big. But really, it's been pretty big, like 15-minute proof for ZK LLM with a lot of heavy machinery. But a recent folding paper called Mira actually showed that you can have a very, or decently prover cost with actually having good memory efficiency. So the green line and the red line there are folding schemes doing these MNIST type problems. And I think this is very cool and forward-looking work in terms of ZK-ML. The other are other projects, and you can obviously see like the prover memory just explodes when you're doing these ML type operations. So I would really say the SOTA, the state of the art of ZK-ML right now, is actually back to folding. Maybe 2 years ago it was in folding for a little bit, and then people kind of gave up on it, and now people are redoing it. And this is a pairing-based folding argument that specializes in ZK-ML. In our mindset, they can join the prover network and potentially earn a premium for doing that. But I think it's just very cool and state of the art for ZK on ML. I would also argue that the recursion, it's SOTA to have folding scheme. There's something called snark pack that people use to basically aggregate snark proofs. What ends up happening there is you have GT arithmetic, so it doesn't eventually get posted onto a chain. But you can use Micronova and other folding schemes to very effectively aggregate a whole bunch of proofs together and post on chain cheaply. We actually just posted our verification circuit for our work recently. It's around $20 per proof. So you can imagine taking 1,000 different proofs from 1,000 different people, rather than being like $20 a person. You can just aggregate into one thing and then post it onto a blockchain. I would argue folding is SOTA for small space ZKVM. We did Nebula, and it really did 4x our speed and also reduce the public parameter size. And this is public, anyone can go test this out. I'm sure people in this room have already actually done benchmarks, but it's pretty cool that you can do this. You can also pick the step size, which I think is a fact that people don't really know about. So if you have a big machine, you can pick big step sizes. If you have a little machine, you can pick small step sizes. So you get a lot of variation or a lot of adaptability. Pay-per-use prover cost is really important for VM in general. But the last question, and people who like this on folding schemes is like, oh, this uses elliptic curves. Like, we hate elliptic curves. We like starks and hashes. And there's a bunch of limitations. But you really do need homomorphism for these folding schemes to work. And people have tried a few different approaches. But most recently, there's been really good advances on lattice-based folding. And this completely destroys all these issues people were complaining about for so long. You can now use small fields, just like all the Stark type companies. You can also do pay per bit, just like Binius. And this is important for cost profiles, so we can see a huge cut in costs and also a speed increase from having these small fields. But unlike all these Starks, you actually do get efficient recursion, which is very hard to do with either Binius or a lot of these circle Stark type designs. And lastly, it's plausibly post-quantum secure, which is an important fact for going into the future. So I think most of the complaints that people had in the past about folding have all basically just been debunked by the NEO paper that recently came out. And I expect that this work going into the future will probably outperform a lot of the VMs and other stuff that's just based on pure Starks, because we can use basically the exact same tricks. Another interesting fact is actually people who are looking to put Binius in some of their work now don't need to, because they get the same cost profile just by doing a simple fold. The one downside to this is the evaluation proofs. There's still like a trick in the paper they're using for the evaluation proofs that needs a little bit more work. But other than that, it's an extremely promising approach. So we went from EC now to lattice-based type folding, which I've been on my blog, etc. I've been pitching for like over 2 years. Like, we need lattice folding. There's been a few works on it, but I think this is probably the biggest step in that direction to make it really practical and usable for everyone. The last thing I want to talk about is just prover networks in general. If you have a whole prover network based on folding, which I think Nexus is doing, and we're also based on it as well, it's extremely powerful for parallelization and being able to aggregate efficiently. It has the lowest recursion overhead, so we can just combine these things together extremely efficiently. IBC is super cool. We don't need to have monolithic provers, so you don't have proof racing. You can actually use cooperative game theory with Shapley values, and people get paid out fairly for what they contribute. So it's much more of a cooperative type mindset rather than a competitive type. So actually even Get a lot can join and earn as a hardware advanced prover. which I think is cool. So you can have a bunch of different types of provers in the background kind of working together to get proofs done. Most importantly, you get privacy because the stuff is running on your device for the most part. Like these smaller proofs do run directly in your browser. And you can also do DPIN. So you can do things like ZK proof of location, which we're doing a demo on Wednesday with IoTeX. Millions of devices running in parallel on their device, actually doing proof of location. Under 5 seconds per device, they end up efficiently aggregating within the network layer and then posting onto an L1 all within like 3 minutes, which I think is just a mind-blowing thing that wasn't possible a few years back, but with folding now it is. Last thing is the fact that we're using NIVC, which is actually one of the only mathematical bases for being able to do this. If you have a custom prover who comes to us with their verifier circuit, we actually run it. So for example, Jolt, you can turn the Jolt verifier into a circuit and run it directly through NovaNet. And with this, you can get some cool traits from other projects as well, and cool collaborations with them. We're actually working really closely with the Jolt team right now so they can actually get ZK from using our stuff and also continuations as well. So with their bigger prover, it's 80 gigabytes, you can potentially break it down to like 8 gigabytes using our folding stuff, and vice versa, we get really good benefits from having lookup tables that can do potentially floating point numbers and a few other non-linearities that we can't do just straight up with old school folding. So there's some cool collaborations with NIVC that I just don't think people are very aware of. I think it's one of the best paradigms to have this kind of ad hoc peer-to-peer prover network because it's 100% mathematically based on cryptographic proofs as well, so everything's very easily verifiable. I hope that blew your mind a little bit. There was a lot in a short amount of time, but hopefully the state of the art of ZK is constantly kind of making us go, oh man, that's crazy that's coming out. But thank you.